how to be unapologetically authentic or real, or how to be authentic. Well, we have to work our way through kind of the protection that we've created, the false self that we've created, the over-identification with the personality that we've created, the conditions of society, whatever it all is, we're just working our way through. Let that stuff drop away. And then being ourselves, it's the most natural thing in the world.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hello Me, Unapologetically Authentic. We love it. We're here every week. We're really glad to have you here. And we have an amazing creature of magnitude that we're really grateful to introduce you guys to. This is Joy Taylor. She has shown up in many people's lives and inboxes in all kinds of ways. She's been doing intuitive business coaching, helping people with strategy from this authentic place of living. She's an amazing author. She has this brand new book, Inspired, which I love the title. And she's a spiritual leader and helps people with authenticity and guiding them along their way. And we're so grateful to have you here. Welcome, Joy. Hi.
Hi, it's cool to be with both of you, lovely creatives, creatures that you be.
Yes.
I'm glad you're doing this. I know this has been an idea for a while, so how cool.
So welcome and introduce yourself a little. Let people where are you in the world and what's lighting you up today?
I'm in the beautiful Mount Shasta, California, the vortex of this. I feel like majestic is the word that keeps coming to me. You know, Mount Shasta called me in 1998. I didn't really know where I was going, but I was 28 years old and living in Phoenix, Arizona. And I got a vision of living at the base of a mountain. And my heart really, really deeply knew that where I was living in a city that was dependent on water from other rivers and lakes and reservoirs, it just wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't where I wanted to ultimately be. So I had that vision of a mountain, and I packed up my guitar and my massage table and got in my little Toyota truck and found my way to Mount Shasta. And I've been here primarily ever since. I've had breaks, moved to Maui for a year and a half, traveled the world for a half year on a sabbatical, spent some time in Ashland, Oregon, but I'm back again. So that's where I am in the physical world, which, you know, it's where heaven and earth meet. So I'm in the physical world, but I have to say there's something about the nature, the energy, the sweetness of the community in this place that I get to call home that really feeds me, really nourishes me. And the 4 years that I did leave, I just couldn't stop thinking about this incredible place. So here I am.
Yummy. The land is so powerful, hey?
Oh, yeah.
So how does this place you're speaking of, Michelle and I have talked about earth and land and just the energy of how it contributes to our bodies. So how does being in that place impact how you be?
And it impacts all of us so differently, and where we live matters. I've learned that, at least for me, where I live matters. So I can speak from my own experience, which you'll see. I say that a lot because I'm the last thing I want to be is presumptuous about what it feels like to be in Mount Shasta for other people. But I do know that it is a pilgrimage spot, like many places on the planet. It is a remote, relatively remote region where there's a lot of wilderness. And I'm looking in your window, actually, Michelle, and you're up in Alaska right now. So I want to talk about Alaska in a moment. But what I love about Mount Shasta for myself is water. And we really do. We drink water out of our faucets. Our water is pure. There's like sources where we fill up buckets from these incredible springs. And the water looks like snow in the wintertime, and the water is alpine lakes in the summertime. So I get to, and that's my favorite thing, swim in lakes for a good 4 to 5 months every year. And I do it daily. It's like a ritual, pretty close to daily. So for me, it's just, I don't know, how does it feel? It just feels comforting. It matches me. And that's what I would say for all of us as we're like, where is my home? It's like when we know the home within ourselves, it's easier to identify the home outside of ourselves, because you asked me what lights me up. It will light us up. There will be more synchronicity. There will be a sense of safety or security, but also a sense of being able to really flourish and fly. And, based on all of our own values and ideals, to find a community, not just the nature and the actual land, but people that are in alignment with where we're headed in our lives. So we have allies in awakening or good company. That's essential too. So I'm just fortunate that kind of panned out in my life, and I'll be here until further notice, right?
I know you on a lot of different layers, and what you bring into the world and the work you do, I appreciate so much with my whole being. So thank you for being here as well. You touched on it a little bit. One of the things that I appreciate about you is the source of community that you just are, and how you bring people in to that community. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about what community means to you and how you are kind of an instrument of creating that.
That's so cool, Michelle. Thank you. It comes pretty natural to me, doesn't it? Right? It's not like something I try. It's community has the word unity in it. And then calm as in common. So it's such a beautiful word. And well, I'm going to tell a little story. I remember hearing this, and it was about a spiritual aspirant who went to India and saw a guru and came to the guru and said, what's the most important thing for me to reach enlightenment? Because that's what that spiritual aspirant was all about and wanted. And the guru said, satsang, which means to be in the company of truth, to be in good company, to be in community. I really feel like anything I've decided I wanted to do in my life, right? Something new, like when I decided I wanted to climb Mount Shasta. I just started hanging out with people who had climbed the mountain. So in my professional career, and I just consider myself a creative, like what matters to me is to stay in that energy of creativity and manifestation. That's why I love business coaching. I'm going to keep surrounding myself around soul-inspired entrepreneurs who have a calling and want to actualize that calling. And in the process of doing that, I guess I just know the value of community. So it's very natural for me to introduce people to each other. It's very natural for me to facilitate connection calls, and I'm more of a facilitator than a teacher. That's what I love, because I love bringing out the strength in others. When people ask what's your superpower, which that's kind of something we talk about a lot lately. That's kind of cool, isn't it? The last 10 years, superpowers are really we talk about it a lot. Mine is I see people's potential. And so when I see someone's potential and then I see someone else's potential, or I see the potential of what they might do together, it's my honor to introduce them to each other. And so community, that's how we go anywhere. What did Ram Dass say? We're just walking each other home. We don't get there alone, which is part of what I love about what you two are doing, because you're doing it together, and then you're bringing other people, other personalities into the mix, but it's not alone. It's surely not a monologue, and we get sparked and we grow. So does that kind of answer the question, Michelle, or do you have any input or thoughts in being a part of some of the communities we've been a part of together, online mostly?
Well, I mean, I appreciate so much the connections that you make for myself and others, and also the way that you're able to bring community together, and in the offerings that you provide. Like you take a lot of time and introspection and dedication to building beautiful containers for other people to come, and then holding space for each person to bring what they bring to the table. It's not like the joy show, it's the everybody show.
I love that reflection. Thank you. I love being able to do that online, and I've always enjoyed being able to do that in my home. So my partner Gavin and I, we have these beautiful community get-togethers in our home with themes. And so instead of just inviting friends over for a potluck and listen to music and whatever, we start with a circle. It's usually about an hour, but we have a theme and everyone gets to share. And then when we break and have our meal, like, oh my goodness, the richness, because we've set a tone for like, let's be real, let's talk about what matters. Yeah, so it isn't, thank you. I mean, it isn't about me. I have a personality. I'm really grateful I have one. I'm using it. I'm grateful for all the gifts I've been given. But the last thing I'm really about is promoting joy. And I know because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who have this struggle. It's like, oh my gosh, self-promotion, right? And it's like, okay, it's okay to come out as a personal brand. Just don't take yourself too seriously, because that's really not it. It's the message, it's the vibration, it's the frequency that matters. So I love seeing people like show up and be themselves.
So that piece, like the showing up and being themselves, I'm just curious about, like, I think there's so many layers out there about what that even means. Like, I know for myself, I work with a lot of women who are at this place of this cross point of like, who am I really? Like, okay, so if I want to be myself, if I want to be authentic, and you know, you create the space where you bring out the strengths in others and you help people see their potential. I think there's a disconnect somehow in a lot of the women that I'm finding in my client life and in the world, where there's a disconnect between who am I really, what is that really, and do I really trust this space to hold this? Like what you're creating in how you facilitate circle and community and communion and all of that, I think is an anomaly. Like, I don't think there's a lot of that safety available for most people where they can really just be authentically themselves in whatever that is. So for people who are listening to this that don't have a fellowship like that don't have that person sitting across from them at that table, how do they find that in themselves? If they, we're often looking for that leadership ourselves, or we're looking for that. So what, for those women who aren't those soul inspired entrepreneurs, but are inspired for something, but they don't have that space that can honor that in the way that you do, what would you suggest for those people who are like, there's something else, but where's my place? Like, how do I find me and be with me and celebrate this with someone, and these aren't my people?
There are so many questions in there.
I know.
And that's cool, because I just kept hearing it starts with self. That's what I kept hearing. And before we all came on together, and I was just taking some time to tune in and meditate, not knowing much about what we'd talk about, I kept hearing self-honesty. And that we've been focusing on our potential, right? And so we've been a little bit focusing on that unabashed, wild, wonderful, creative energy that is contributing to the world and has passions and talents and gifts. And just as equally important and true, we also have within us anger, fear, grief, anxiety, sadness, shame. I mean, these emotions that are living in us and their accompanying beliefs or thoughts or physical tissue issues, all of that is present as well. And so when we talk about self-honesty or like, where does it start and how to find the community, you know, the outside world will reflect our inner world. So I personally, I'm actually more of an introvert than an extrovert. That's why I live in Mount Shasta and go out in nature all the time. But one of my favorite ways to be self-honest with myself and let some of the, people can call them shadow aspects, I would just say, just let myself be more real with me, is writing. That's one, we can talk about a few, but to actually give myself permission to explore anything and everything. I mean, you guys remember The Artist's Way, you know, classic book. I just picked it up. I started reading it again, those morning pages, giving self permission. And on my journey, the path of self-honesty, oh, wow, you know, it's just constantly a growing path. But the more that I'm willing to give myself space and time with my journal, which is my favorite way, to actually consciously rant, consciously release. So it doesn't mean I necessarily believe all of the stories that my mind is telling me, but I'm letting myself write them out, and I'm bringing loving presence in the process. So I become like my own best friend. Sometimes, more lately, I've actually, and I do this in the car, just because it's like, there you are, you're alone. I have dialogue with an aspect of myself, two aspects. I had a dialogue recently with the part of me that's ready to go out and be courageous and follow her next creative impulse, which is this creator circle I'm creating and launching. And the one that's super afraid, wants to stay safe, it has millions of doubts. And so they got to have a conversation. And you know what was amazing about that? So I'm talking satsang with self. I think we'll get to your other question about how do you find people, but you got to find yourself first before you find other people and have that kind of relationship with all the parts of self. And so in my dialogue between the like, let's go, and I'm like fearless, and I know that I'm here to do this because I'm going to let light speak through me. I'm going to let spirit speak through me. That one became such a beautiful listener of the doubt one. And what I learned, there was so much wisdom in the fear and the doubt. It was, fear is intuition. Fear at its best. Carla McLaren has a great book, The Language of Emotions. Fear is intuition. And this one was like, I'm okay. I mean, I'm afraid, and I'm going to take steps because we're doing some things that are unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. I just want you to make sure that you don't push it and you don't drive, and that you slow down enough and take care of my body, because I'm afraid I might get exhausted, or I'm afraid we're not going to have enough time to swim in the lakes, and it became, instead of pushing down the fear, oh, I'm not afraid, I can do it. I mean, you know that voice inside that can be that way? No, it was expansive. It was like, I'm curious. So my dialogue became curiosity. Like, and then there was a lot of information. So these kind of conversations, whether they're journaled or they're actually verbal in the car or alone, I've even recorded conversations with myself on my phone, but naming different aspects of self. I tend to like to bring my authentic, most authentic, essential, loving self into conversation with the shame, the confusion, and there ends up sometimes being more wisdom and a lot of love and a lot of compassion. So my loving presence tends to say a lot like, wow, that sounds hard. What's that like for you? Instead of trying to convince myself otherwise. So then I become really in a self-honest dialogue that reveals a lot. And I commune with I commune with more of myself. I become more integrated. How does that translate to like living a life that's more fully expressed, having better relationships, reaching out into community? I mean, that'll look different for everyone, but I bet you in the dialogue, there might be some incredible impulses, instincts, or follow the breadcrumbs, go to a meetup, go to an event that seems different, meet some new people, put out the prayer, it'll be answered. There will be ways that we can express ourselves. I talk about it in Inspired. It's like, you know, once we say yes to letting inspiration live through us and for us to take the action, if we just stay in the yes, you know, it might start with like just picking up garbage on the street. And the next thing you know, someone stops you and says, oh, I do that too. And I'm part of a group. And then you go and you're part of a community initiative. You never planned it, right? But it starts with one day picking up some garbage and someone stops and says hello. We don't have to manipulate it or try, but when we follow what expands us, when we follow those promptings, we make our way to whatever's next.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers, gives up
Absolutely.
for people listening too. That was a little bit of a monologue, but
That was great. The piece in there that stands out is your willingness to witness all of you. So in, you know, the dyads that you're having, you know, it's not just dyads, but it's like the multiplicity of characters and qualities and elements of you, and the willingness that you have to witness the elements of you, and to allow all of them to guide you and teach you and to work with each other. And that's, I think, one of the biggest obstacles that people have when they want to create their lives in a different way. They're not always willing to go into this indwelling self with self, communing internally with all of me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the diva, the potent, the wizard, the whatever, like all of these characters and elements of me. But the qualities you're bringing forward is, it's all kind of fun and playful. Like, I'm going to let this play with this, and this element of me talk to this element of me. And in all of that, I'm curious, and I'm going to enjoy the process of understanding myself in a new way, without defining it. I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. And that playfulness and witnessing, and have all of you show up in all new ways. It's really, it's quite playful. I like that. Thank you.
yeah, well, and it's, if we don't do it, if we don't bring awareness, if we shove it down, if it's not okay to have the shame or the confusion or whatever it is that's showing up, then it ends up playing out anyway, because we know that, you know, Carl Jung, among many others, have given us so much direction. And I know it for myself. It's like anything that has not been brought to consciousness is going to rule our lives through our habits and our projections. You know, our conditioning will put us back into the same situations over and over and over again, unless we unravel enough, if we're willing enough to have these conversations. But the other piece that I would add, so, you know, there's the dialogue and the conversations and the writing, and a lot of that is, well, at its best, it's not that mental, and it's actually pretty integrated, because there'll be some feelings there and there will be, there might even be the body wanting to express. But there is something else that's I like in this realm of talking about being authentic and being real, and then having real relationships and real friendships, being honest with myself and real with myself. There's just emoting without adding any story to it, you know. So that can and has for me looked like just feeling kind of frustrated and uptight, or something's not working, and I'll like leave my office. I work from home, go downstairs, go out into the yard and just pound. I've done that. It's like, you know, just, or shaking. I love to shake. Shaking moves a lot of nervous energy. I don't even have to think about what I'm releasing. I just know that there's something releasing. I've gone through plenty of loss in my life. I've lost relationships. I've lost money unexpectedly. I had a beautiful herbal business and some things happened. So I lost that business and that community. So I've gone through grief. We've all gone through grief, and the way through is through. And I didn't have to always dialogue about what was going on. I just really needed to cry. I needed to have space and give myself room and space to just wail and trust that by letting myself emote, emotion is motion, it's energy in motion, let that happen. Then there's an unwinding, and then we become more authentic. So there's the mental, and then there's the emotional, and then on a physical level, like it does matter, like drinking water and doing occasional cleanses and taking saunas and doing yoga and exercising to move energy. All of this that we do physically, getting body work has been a lifesaver for me. I don't even need to know why, but it's an unwinding of, blocked energy in my body. And then I just am more real. And for goodness sakes, while I'm on the table, if I'm getting body work, if I want to moan or laugh or whatever needs to happen, let that happen as well. So there's a journey there is an unwinding, what we're really talking about is like how to be unapologetically authentic or real, or how to be authentic. Well, we have to work our way through kind of the protection that we've created, the false self that we've created, the over-identification with the personality that we've created, the conditions of society, whatever it all is, we're just working our way through. Let that stuff drop away. And then being ourselves, it's the most natural thing in the world, giving ourselves permission.
So Joy, as you walk this path of presence and vulnerability and honesty with yourself, share with our audience a little bit of how doors have opened with your creativity and your creations and offerings for people in the world, and your path romantically. Like how is this truth within you open doors for you, and what does that look like?
And it does. I mean, just even your question is so full of insight, right? Because it does. What is lighting me up and alive would be to share how I met Gavin. And we've been together as of this moment and recording. We're on our 9th month. And it came after an intensive winter and period of time for me where I did a lot of releasing grief. And some of it was so old and stored, I didn't even need to know what it was, as well as unexpressed anger. And I just was on such a self-honesty, get in integrity with self and get grounded and connected back to the earth era of my life. And it was, of course, initiated. I went through an initiation where I had made some choices that were not fully aligned for me. Relationally, where I lived, financially. I mean, so I just got boom, time to, integrity. My soul said nope, and some things fell apart. So I was kind of forced into it, but then built a better relationship with myself, found a lot of love, found a lot of presence. And what happens at that moment as well is, I believe, there's a being in tune or an intuitiveness that starts to happen. And so I just actually got the feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm going to meet someone. Oh, I'm going to meet my guy. And then I could feel he lived to the north. And I'm not saying everyone needs to have these kind of signs or intuition at all. I just happen to get a lot of premonitions, have a lot of clairsentience. And it's like I saw the mountain and moved to Mount Shasta, clairvoyance, whatever. We all have those gifts, by the way. But I'm always learning to follow them. And it prompted me to put myself on online dating, which I did, and kind of did it quickly and said, okay. Anyway, I met Gavin, and he just, of course, well, he's an authenticity guide too. I mean, he's a mentor to entrepreneurs and a spiritual therapist, and our lives just go hand in hand so easily and beautifully. And we've both cultivated such rich relationships with ourselves that are very loving. We're both loving to ourselves. So to be able to be loving to each other, and therefore very vulnerable and very real, it just continues to unfold. It just continues to happen. And it's pretty powerful. I want this for everyone, whether it's a beloved partner or a best friend or a community. It goes back to it. It's like, gosh, and it starts with us being able to be that for others. Like, to be like, I want you to be you right now. Don't try to be anything. I'm going to love you as you express who you are right now, and then to bring enough consciousness to that we can evolve into the next best version of ourselves, right? We're not getting stuck. Anyway, just being in love and being with someone where really just feels like we have a shared ministry. We're meant to be together. And then we just continue to refine and refine and refine how we communicate, how we care for each other, how we grow our lives together. And it's a game changer in terms of being nurtured and being able to be more present with others. And yeah.
If I listened to this and I heard you say, I saw the mountain and I knew I needed to go to Mount Shasta, and I did all this work on myself in this winter, and I felt my partner coming to me, and people are like, I don't know that. I want to tap into that intuition. What would you say?
Well, I do have a program called Clear the Way, and it's a self-study. It's over 20 videos supporting people in accessing their intuition. So that's a nice journey to take. That's a really nice journey to take. The coupon code will be in the show notes so people can get that for $97 and just have fun. It'll walk you through your journey to access your own intuitive abilities. Mm-hmm.
Well, Joy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this with us. And I look forward to another interview later in the future where we can tap in even deeper and further to some of these great topics.